Well, I can't even tell you how excited we are that there are so many couples in this room wanting to build a championship marriage. And so we are looking forward to this next 4 weeks together. We're going to dig in. We're going to learn some stuff together. But I thought maybe we'd start by just telling our story and where we began.
Yeah, it was almost 42 years ago when our paths crossed at Bible College.
And I looked across the student center and I saw this amazingly beautiful, stunning teenager, and I thought, wow, there is no way she would ever go out with a guy like me.
And I'll never forget seeing a tall, blonde volleyball player who always sat in the front row of our classes, and he asked really good questions. And I thought, I've got to get to know that guy.
Yeah, and so actually you tried to go out on a date with me.
I did. Actually, it was a group date. There was a bunch of us that were going to go to a movie. And so I said to one of the guys, hey, why don't you go over to the dorm and ask Todd if he'd want to join us? And so we did, and this guy went in, and he came out, but he did not come out with Todd. And I said, well, where is he? He said, well, Carolyn, I hate to break it to you, but he's reading the Old Testament tonight. And I thought, you've got to be kidding. Like, maybe I don't want to get to know this guy.
I was playing hard to get, but listen, you had a way of breaking me down.
I did. So my best friend and her boyfriend, and then Todd, I invited all of them to come to my parents' home in the country for the weekend. And so we went and had a fun weekend together, but the Saturday night...
It was a trap. It was a trap.
Well, it was an intentional trap.
No, it was a trap. So this other couple is dating, and she says, hey, why don't you brush my hair? So they're all cuddly and brushing hair, and we're sitting on the opposite sides of the room, and Carolyn said, do you want to brush my hair?
And that's all it took. And he was mine.
And now we've got 3 kids, 3 amazing son-in-laws, 2 adorable grandbabies, and we have a great family. We've been married just going on 40 years.
And you know, over the years, we've held on to a really strong value, which is to create strong special moments together and have adventures together.
Yeah, so we do lots of travel. We love travel adventures, and we try to make life an adventure. And the Lord sort of led us into an adventure a couple of years ago where we launched something called the Relationship Rocket. We wrote a book called The Relationship Rocket Formula. It went out this last September. We've got a website full of free resources and all sorts of things just to encourage couples. And then we also have 2 books coming out in May, the 7-Day Marriage Challenge and the 7-Day Marriage Detox. And we're just really convinced that every marriage runs out of fuel and loses the spark at some time. And the Lord's kind of taught us a lot of things along the way, so we decided to invest in helping other couples.
Right. Well, you know what, tonight, we're not going to imagine our marriages as rockets about to launch into this incredible adventure. We are going to imagine marriage on a court and creating a championship team.
Yeah, we're really excited about rolling out the top 10 greatest marriage plays. And so in the room, you have your workbook, and you're going to be able to track along with these. At home, we encourage you to grab some paper and some pen. And let me just say again, welcome to people at home. We have people from where?
There's a couple from Churchill, somebody from Ontario, another couple from Alberta, and then some others just here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, so we're just thrilled that you're joining us as well. But we would love for you to track along. There's going to be some things on a screen, some things that are said that you're probably going to want to write down and remember, and maybe even use as discussion a little bit later. So let's go on with pen and paper in hand. Let's go.
All right, so marriage play number 10 is choose your team.
Now, you would be forgiven if you flash back in your mind and think back to your wedding day, and if you thought that standing before a priest or a justice of the peace and saying your vows and having all your friends and family around, and then going to that signing table and signing your name, if you thought that you were signing onto the same team.
And this is going to come maybe as a shock to some of you, but that's not actually what you were signing. The moment you put your name on that line, you were putting yourselves together in the same arena. You are putting yourselves together in the same game, the same commitment, the same house, probably the same last name, the same court, but you weren't on the same team.
You see, getting married doesn't automatically put you on the same team. Let that sink in for a second. Getting married does not automatically put you onto the same team. In fact, most husbands and wives, once they have got onto the court of marriage right after the wedding, they start taking on all sorts of other roles rather than being on the same team. For example, some of us, even in this room, are still referees. We've taken on the role of referee. We have our whistle, and every time our spouse double dribbles or steps out of bounds or fouls out in some way, we're right there with our whistle, and we are calling them on it. We operate as the referee.
Yes, there's some of us who may fall into that role, but then there's others of us that might be in the role of scorekeeper. We are spouses who try to keep track of every play in the game, who apologized last, who did the dishes last, who started an argument last. And somewhere in our minds, there's this big, invisible scoreboard tracking who's winning and who's losing.
That's right. Some of us are referees. Some of us are scorekeepers, and then some of us have taken the game up a notch, and we operate as coaches. We're constantly correcting our spouse. Oh, you should do it this way. You're not doing it the right way. It would be better if you said it this way. Why do you do things that way? We're always criticizing. In fact, we give a lot of instructions, but we don't give a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, so some of us may be referees, some of us may be scorekeepers, others might be coaches, but some of us are also replay officials. We are reviewing all the dropped balls, the missed shots in slow motion for the past 3 seasons. Like, you remember how badly you hurt me in 2019?
Ooh.
Yeah, and you always do this, and you always do this, and you never do that, and you never do this.
The whole replay official thing, we've done this. We've played this role. Yeah. But you know, I've always been really curious about the technology behind this replay official. Because it seems like every mistake I make is in 4K HD quick recall, and every mistake you make is automatically deleted.
What do you mean, my mistakes? I didn't think I made too many mistakes.
Case in point.
No, actually, I make a lot. But you know, long after the wedding day, or you know what, it might not even be all that long after the wedding day, some of us become spectators, where we are into the game when it's exciting and when things are going really well. We're cheering when it's good, but when the season gets tough, we choose to sit on the sidelines. We slowly sit back, and we get emotionally checked out. We're flipping the channels. We're more interested in other games going on. And the vast majority of spouses take on the role then as rival
team players. This is the vast majority. There's a bunch of referees and scorekeepers and replay officials and coaches, but this is the one that most spouses take on, is the rival team player, where I'm opposed to the other team, looking for points, looking for advantages, looking for leverage, trying to win the argument rather than winning the marriage.
Mm-hmm. We stop asking, how do I win? And we stop asking, how do I win? And we start asking, how do we win? That is what's so important.
Yeah. You know, around here we believe that the greatest plays are actually recorded for us in the Bible. Now, I don't know if everybody reads the Bible here or maybe even goes to church or anything. That's fine. It's just that's one of our high values around here, is that we believe that the Bible really is the greatest playbook. And it has a lot to say about relationships. For instance, in the 2nd chapter of the Bible, in Genesis, the first book, Genesis chapter 2, it's talking about creation. And I want you to take a look at this. It says this: the man said, "This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken from man. Therefore," this is so important, "therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother, and shall become united and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into the ancient Hebrew here, but this idea, most of us have it in our mind that it all happens in that moment. But it doesn't. This passage seems to indicate that there's an initiating event, which was the wedding day, and when we had those vows and we did the signing and we consummated the marriage, that was the initiating. But then there's a progressive, and that progressive part actually takes a lifetime.
It does. Think of it this way. God makes you one in a moment, and the rest of your life is becoming what he declared. God makes you one in a moment. The rest of your life is becoming what he declared. But the sad thing is, so many couples never do.
Yeah, you know, if you want to grow into having a championship marriage, if you want to grow into this oneness, it will never happen automatically. It will never happen by accident. You won't instantly become on the same team. There has to come a moment when you actually resign your other job. When you resign your job as referee, when you resign your job as scorekeeper, when you resign from being a coach, when you quit doing the replay official stuff, when you say no more spectator, I'm going to cross the line, I'm going to change jerseys, I'm actually going to join your team. And for us, that was like, what, 8, 10 years in? I mean, and probably until you're 25 before we really figured out what that looked like. This does not happen automatically. So what we like to say is this: every couple needs a moment when they resign their other job, they cross the line and decisively decide to join their spouse on their team.
You know, we can actually mark a moment when this happened for us. So about 4 years after we were married, Todd was a youth pastor at another church here in the city, and the youth group was booming. The youth group was becoming really well known here. Things were just up and to the right. I was pregnant with our daughter Amy, and through that year, I was so excited about becoming a mom, and I know you were excited about becoming a dad. But then we started going different directions once she was born, and I felt like Todd was really, really drifting. And his efforts and his attention were put into the youth group. Now, I loved these kids. I loved spending time with them, but I really felt like you were changing. Then, that particular summer, he went on a mission trip to Mexico with another youth pastor and his youth group.
Yeah, so this was a season in our life where really I was opposed to you. I mean, we were not playing on the same team. And sometimes I was referee, sometimes I was coach, sometimes I was scorekeeper, sometimes I was spectator, probably a lot more spectator. I was definitely rival, and our marriage wasn't great. It was okay, but it wasn't great. So I go on this mission trip, and we go down to Mexico, and something happened to the bus. And so on the way back, we have to get on this old, imagine this, it's an old city bus, like, you know, with the metal poles and the city seats and all that. It had a hole in the floor about this big where you could watch the highway go by. It had no air conditioning. So what we did is we took the hammocks that we bought in Mexico and we strung them between the bars on the city bus. And my youth pastor friend is reading a book. And he's finished his book, said, wow, that was really good. I said, well, what was the book about? He said, well, it's a book about marriage. I thought, wow, you know, we're struggling a bit in our marriage. I wonder if I should read this book. So I'll never forget. I read this book, and by the time we hit Oklahoma City, late at night, I jumped off the bus, and I remember the heat and the humidity just hitting me. And I ran, and these are the days of a payphone. I ran to the payphone, and I called Carolyn late at night.
Yeah, the phone rang, and I'm wondering who is calling this late. And of course, your mind goes to these really bad places. But it was Todd, and he said, Carolyn, I get it. I finally get what you are saying. I hear you now, that you aren't feeling like you're a priority in my life anymore, and I've drifted, and I'm making my attention somewhere else. And so I want to let you know that when I get home, things are going to look different.
Yeah. You know, I won't go to the whole story, but there were some things that you were telling me before I left that I didn't believe and actually offended me. And when I came home, I said, oh my goodness, you know what I want to do? Instead of being against you, I want to get inside your head and I want to look through your eyes. I want to see those situations through your eyes. I started asking questions. I started saying, you know what? We're playing on the same team from here on. So the first of our top 10 greatest marriage plays is a radical shift in your mind to from playing on opposite teams to playing on the same team. Every other one of the great plays is going to actually flow out of this one. But if you don't have this one figured out, and it can take 20, 30, or 40 years to figure this one out, but there needs to be a decisive moment where you say, you know what, I'm done. My other job, I'm resigned. I am playing on the same team as you. I'm switching jerseys. Let's play for our marriage rather than against each other. All right, so you have resigned your job. No longer are you going to be the referee or the scorekeeper or the replay statistician or the spectator or even on the rival court. You've switched jerseys. You've now joined your spouse, and maybe you didn't even know that was a thing, and you're 20 or 30 years in, and now you've finally done that. Now what?
Well, you know what? It really is making that decision, right? Choosing the decision, and it's game-changing. And it is a change of mindset that makes all the difference. And with that comes action. So if you want to turn to page 10, and you will see top 10 greatest marriage play number 9. And that is pursue your player. You know, pursuing your player, pursuing your spouse is the discipline that needs to be learned. Now, rookies are really great at this. When people start dating, they have got this down pat. They know how to pursue one another. I can tell you story upon story of how Todd pursued me when we were dating. This scrapbook here is filled with notes and love letters and cards and even a song that he wrote, all in just the dating phase of our relationship. And you know what? He was a poor college student. He didn't have a lot of money, and I liked at that time a Nay perfume. Well, he couldn't afford a bottle of a Nay perfume, so what he did was he went around to every store that sold perfume. He got a little sample vial, then made a box out of all the little cards that the samples come in, made this little box and filled it with all these little vials of a Nay perfume. And I was just blown away by this. And I think I loved this more than the actual bottle of a Nay perfume. And I kept this little box because it meant so much to me, the effort and the time and just the thoughtfulness that he went to. And of course, he could not afford a lot, but one big thing at the time was these gunned teddy bears, and they were really expensive, and he knew I liked the gunned teddy bear, and he knew I liked monkeys, so he bought me this monkey, and he was only able to afford it because he chose not to eat for a whole week. And so he just went out of his way to do all of these special things to pursue me. Now, that changed a little bit. And we won't go into that now, but all the pursuing in dating, in getting engaged, planning a wedding, preparing your vows, pulling off a honeymoon, it's all about the chase, and it's about the hunt and the quest and the mission that we're all on when we are pursuing someone. And then on the other side of dating, getting engaged, the wedding and the honeymoon, something remarkable happens. We forget how to pursue our spouse.
You know, let's talk about basketball for a moment. You know, in basketball, the whole idea of a championship team starts back with the fundamentals. Those players needed to learn the fundamentals in order to get them to where they were. You know, and in relationship and in marriage, we need to learn the fundamentals as well.
Just a second, fundamentals, that just takes me back really to gym class, and I don't like gym class very much, and it just sounds boring.
Okay, well, you're right. It does sound, as a concept, it sounds boring, but here's the reality. You will never be a championship team without the fundamentals, and you will never have a championship marriage if you don't know what the fundamentals are and if you're not good at them. So I would ask you, do you know what the fundamentals are, and are you good at them? That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the fundamentals and finding out if you are good at them.
So I want you to write down one single word, and that word is pursuit. Maybe you want to circle it. Maybe you want to star it. There's a powerful picture of pursuit in our playbook in the Old Testament book of the Bible called Song of Solomon. Now, for those of you who might be new to the Bible, the Song of Solomon is a really steamy, romantic book about two lovers.
Hang on, it's a sexy book.
There's a little bit of that in there, too.
There's a lot of that in there.
and here's what it says in chapter 3, verses 1 to 2. All night long on my bed, I looked for the one my heart loves. I looked for him, but I did not find him. I will get up now and go about the city. I will search for the one my heart loves. I want you to notice what Solomon is telling us here. He's saying love is not passive. It's active. It's intentional. It moves. It searches, and it pursues.
So, fundamentals around pursuit, this idea. I want to teach you 3 fundamentals of marriage, 3 ways to pursue your spouse. And the first is this, write it down. Pursue with your eyes. Pursue with your eyes. You cannot pursue what you're not looking at. In basketball, you cannot make a successful pass if you are not aware of exactly where that person is, where they're going to be. You're anticipating. You are seeing them. Even if you're not looking at them, you're seeing and you're really aware. In marriage, you cannot pursue the person if you are not absolutely looking at them. Listen, most marriages don't collapse because they stop loving each other. They simply stop looking at each other. They start looking at all sorts of other places. Their eyes are on their screens, not on their spouse. Their eyes are on their work and their spreadsheets and their projects and their to-do lists. Their eyes are on the next shiny thing. Their eyes are on their dreams and desires, on their friends and their likes. Their eyes are on their hobbies and their pastimes and their sidelines. Their eyes are everywhere else except on their spouse.
You know, there's a greeting in the southern parts of Africa, and many of you know of our connection to Eswatini, and it is this greeting, Sawubona. And Sawubona, you would think just means hello, but it's a very different meaning over there. It means I see you. And not just I see your face, but I see your struggle, I see your humanity, I see your effort, I see your worth. And the response in South Africa is Nikona, and it means I am here. It's an acknowledgement that because you see me, I do exist and I do matter. Because you see me, I am not invisible.
You know, it almost makes you wish in English that we had words like that, right? Instead of hi, you know, Sawubona, I see you. And you say back, you know, because you see me, I exist. Oh, that is so rich. And that's the kind of seeing we need to have with one another. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if we had words like that? So when somebody feels seen, think about all the things that happen when you feel seen. When I know even as a guy, when I feel seen, my shoulders relax a little bit. My heart calms down. Some of the anxiety goes away. Some of the worry goes away. My heart softens. I lower my guard. I open up to you. I become more vulnerable. I feel like I can breathe. My defenses begin to drop and my walls begin to lower, because to be unseen leads to loneliness. And think about it. It's the most ironic thing, but there are so many people who are married and lonely. They're lonely in their marriage. I don't know if there's anything sadder than being married to somebody, living under the same roof, maybe even sleeping in the same bed, and yet feeling so incredibly lonely. That happens because we don't see each other.
You know, when I feel seen by Todd, I feel cherished. I feel honored. I feel understood. So number one, pursue with your eyes.
Now, I have a very practical and real world way of doing this, right? At home, I have a chair in a room that I often do my office work. But when Carolyn is out in the evening, I know what time she's coming home, and so I move to the living room chair. The reason I do that is because from the living room chair, I can see the highway, and I can see the driveway, and I can see when she drives into the driveway. The minute I see those headlights, and I mean every time, the minute I see those headlights coming into the driveway, I fold up my laptop, set it down, take one last scan of the kitchen counter to make sure it's clean. I've probably lit a candle already, maybe half an hour earlier, so it smells nice. And then I go to the door, and we have a window in our door with a mullion, and I line up Carolyn as she's walking so that she can't see me. And she's walking, and I do this all the time. And just as she's reaching for the door, I open the door. I want her to know in that moment that there is nothing more important, nothing on my laptop, no game on the TV, nothing going on in my life more important than her. And I see her, and I give her a hug, and I take her coat, and I take the bags out of her arms, and I welcome her home. That's how I love to express seeing you. And that's just one way. There's many, many other ways of seeing somebody. But when you are seeing your spouse, you're aware of their feelings. You're attentive to their needs. You're tuned into their hopes and their wishes and desires. You're focused on their well-being, and you're locked into what it is that really brings life to their soul.
But you know, there are many times, and we've gone through many seasons of our marriage where we did not do this. This has been a learning along the way, but there's a lot of us, right? We can be married 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, even 40 years, and we live in the same house, we sleep in the same bed, we share the same bank account, we eat the same meals, we share many of the same experiences, but we've stopped seeing each other. We stop pursuing each other with our eyes because we're looking at everything but our spouse.
Yeah, if you want a championship marriage, start pursuing your spouse with your eyes, your physical eyes, but also your awareness, your sense of who they are and where they are. Here's something else we've learned.
That the opposite of love isn't hate, it's invisibility. And the fastest way to revive a marriage is to look at the person you promised to see.
Okay, so that's fundamental number one. That's like dribbling, okay? That's fundamental number one. Fundamental number two is this: pursue with your questions. Pursue with your questions. A simple, intentional question is one of the best ways to connect people. Questions keep love current. Listen to this. Assumption is a slow poison that will kill your marriage, but curiosity is the antidote. Curiosity, asking questions. The day you stop asking questions is the day you stop discovering your spouse.
You know, most of us ask questions, but some of them tend to be lazy questions like, what's for dinner? Or who's picking up the kids today? Why is the credit card balance so high? Why don't you ever listen? And those are natural questions. They just kind of roll right off of our tongue. But they're not the kind of questions that we're talking about.
Yeah, they're not curious questions. They're not good questions. They're lazy questions, like you said. We want to give you 3 questions that you can steal, that you can use. And these are some of the best questions we know. Here's the first one. How can I love you better right now? Man, that is a powder keg of a question. How can I love you better right now? You can believe that's going to get an answer and a conversation going if you just ask a question like that.
Another one is, what are you dreaming about these days?
I love that question. That's one of my favorite questions. It just takes you into the future. Where are we going? Where's this ride going? What's our next adventure? What are you dreaming of? What are some of your aspirations? I love that. And let me give you a question that I'm not exaggerating. I think we ask 100 times a year, probably twice a week, and it never gets old. And it's 4 words long, and we use it at least twice a week, sometimes more. Never gets old. The answer is always different. Here it is. It is a magic question. This is such a good one. You want to steal it?
I do. I love it.
Do it.
How is your soul?
How is your soul?
Because you know what? It's not just how are you doing. It's how's your soul. It goes right to a deeper place.
Yeah. I mean, we'll often go for a drive up to Tim's in Selkirk just to waste time and to be together. And inevitably, hey, how's your soul? Wow, it just unzips and allows you to have a conversation. Some of us have never asked good questions like those questions. These are great questions. So, fundamental number 1, pursue with your eyes. Fundamental number 2, pursue with your questions. Fundamental number 3, pursue with your actions. Now, pursue with your actions. Let me really quickly take you back 2,400 years ago, back to a Greek philosopher, Eubulides. Eubulides is on a seashore, on a beach, and he builds a heap of sand. Now, this is what I guess Greek philosophers do when they're on the beach. They build a bunch of sand, and then they come up with a question. And the question was this: if I remove a grain of sand, does that become a non-heap? If I remove 5 grains of sand, if I remove 10 grains of sand, if I remove 500 grains of sand, does it become a non-heap? When does the heap become a non-heap? You say, well, what was he getting at? What he was getting at is that the state of something is seldom easy to identify when it changes. In other words, your marriage, it's very hard to tell when a good marriage turns to a bad marriage. A whole bunch of stuff has left the marriage and you didn't even notice it because you just kind of drift away. You drift into passivity. There's a verse in the Bible in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Now it's talking about faith, but the principle is good for relationships. This is what it says: test yourself to make sure you are solid in the faith. Don't drift along. Don't just drift along, taking everything for granted. That's what some of us are doing in our marriages. We're just drifting along, taking everything for granted. Give yourself regular checkups. If you fail the test, do something about it. This verse is saying, don't drift. Don't take things for granted. Give yourself a checkup. Ask yourself some hard questions. Eubulides was saying nobody knows when a sand heap becomes a non-heap, and in marriage we never know when a good marriage turns into a bad marriage. So what we need to do is we need to continue to incrementally be building that marriage. It is so easy to slip into passivity, but actions are putting sand back in the pile. Actions are little bursts of marriage building energy. Actions are putting the ball in the net. That's what actions are.
And now, we're not talking about big, grandiose, expensive, or obligatory actions. We're talking about daily little actions that say, I choose you.
Yeah. Let me ask you a quick question. How many of you have ever been to this bridge, to this place? Hands up. Anybody been there? Okay, this is the Tower Bridge in London. Carolyn and I had the opportunity to go there a couple of years ago. We took the tour. It was amazing. It was remarkable. Here's what I want to ask you. That bridge it looks like one edifice, but it's actually made up of a lot of bricks. How many bricks? You're going to tell your table. You're going to guess. How many bricks did it take to build that bridge? You got 10 seconds. Tell your table. How many bricks did it take to build that bridge? All right. If you said 31 million bricks, you would be right. 31 million bricks. Think about this. Think about this. 31 million times a worker had to pick up a brick, mortar it, and put it in place. 31 million times. Your marriage is not just one big thing. It's made up of little brick moments of laying 31 million bricks.
You know, building something remarkable and lasting requires thousands of small moments, not just a few grand ones.
Yeah, so here's what we want to say to you. Eyes say, I see you. Questions say, I want to know you. And actions say, I choose you. I say, I see you. Questions say, I want to know you. Actions say, I choose you all over again. Okay, so top 10 greatest marriage plays. Starting at number 10, choose your team.
And number 9, pursue your player.
And number 8, really quick, we're going to wrap up with this. Bring your brick. Now, around your tables in this room, your leaders right now are handing out a brick for every person, okay? It's actually a Lego block, okay? But this is not a toy. This is not a toy. This is a symbol.
And this symbol is to remind you this week that your marriage is built brick by brick.
Okay, so we got a challenge for you. This is your homework, okay? We want you to carry that brick with you every day for this whole week. Put it in your pocket, put it in your purse, carry it with you somewhere. Let it remind you that your marriage is built brick by tiny little brick moment everywhere you go. And then we want you to do something with that brick.
Yeah, so what we'd like you to do is come together at some point. Just take a few minutes every day.
Every day.
Doesn't have to be long, but take even 10 minutes every day to connect with each other, to see each other, to ask a good question, and to do something action. Be intentional about your marriage.
But here's the thing. You're going to bring your bricks and you're going to click them together. Okay? Every day, your job is to click your bricks together. Okay, why?
Because the sound of it is gonna remind you that I choose you today.
That's right. So find a moment. So you're gonna carry a brick with you everywhere you go for a whole week to remind you that your marriage is built on a small little bricks. And every day you're gonna find a moment to click them together. Okay? Why? Because if you don't build intentionally, you're going to drift unintentionally. Let me say that again. If you do not build brick by brick intentionally with the little actions, you will end up drifting unintentionally.
You know, some days it's going to feel easy, and other days it's just going to be really, really hard. And those are the days where it really matters the most, because champions don't wing it. They show up with their brick, even when they're tired, even when it feels awkward, even when they have to be the one to go first.
All right, so you've got your homework. Here's what I want to say just to kind of cap this off. God brought you together and made you one. That was the initiation. But it takes the rest of your life to actually live that out. People do not join the same team automatically. People do not pursue one another automatically. These are choices you need to make. You need to make the choice to join the same team. You need to make the choice to pursue one another. And you're going to now need to make the choice to decide, are we going to do our homework or not? Are we going to carry our brick? Are we going to join our brick together? As silly as that feels, every day we're going to join it together to have a conversation, to ask one of those questions, to have a few minutes, and then we'll take our bricks and go our separate ways, and then we'll come back every day. This is a challenge for you. Your marriage is built brick by brick. Okay, here's what we do. We love to do knee-to-knee time. So we're going to give you about 10 minutes or so of knee-to-knee time. This is where you can move away from the table if you want. At home, you can do this as well. Turn to face each other, knee-to-knee in your chair. And we've got some questions for you on the screen. You've got about 10 minutes to talk through those questions, just the two of you, and then we're going to wrap things up.